Hey yo, guys, freaking weirdo. For your reference, today is May 14th when I'm filming this. I'm a few months behind. I haven't decided if I'm gonna I think I'll just keep doing it weekly. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna catch up with this series or just be 2 months behind. You know, because this series, it really doesn't matter if it's up to date. It's, you know, like nothing changes based on the season. Because it's my lessons. Yeah, if it was like more about gigs that I'm not playing any because of the coronavirus. It's 2020, I should say that too. Anyways, another thing I wanted to briefly mention is this is gonna be the last Trumpet update with this beautiful background. I'm really gonna miss this, like, a lot. I love my apartment. I'm moving out. So next one, I'm moving a lot of the stuff to my parents' basement, which is where I'm going to be filming most of my videos. And that's going to be where the next one is most likely. But this is going to be the last one of this series. I'm going to film an album of the week after this as well. And that's going to be the last one here. It's just sad. It's just sad. Anyways, as I've been rambling for a minute and a half. Today also marks a very cool day because it was my last Zoom lesson with Matt Ernst, which I'm so excited about. I'm not going to get into the politics of anything, but the Supreme Court in Wisconsin yesterday overturned Governor Evers' order. Whether you're for it or against it, that's what happened. And Matt told me he's comfortable letting me go into his house. There's not going to be much of a difference from now. We were planning on doing that in 2 weeks from now. There's not going to be a difference in those 2 weeks. I'm not going to be going anywhere. I'm just going straight to his house, straight back home. No stops, no nothing. That is all. That's kind of a decision that I made and he made as well. He's going to be teaching from his home. Once again, there's going to be precautions, yada, yada, yada. He'll be teaching me from the other side of the room. He'll be sanitizing everything before and after I leave because he has other students as well. So that's just a little aside. And that's just what we're dealing with. But again, just leaving the politics of everything out. That's just what the plan is. So, and it works out really well too because I'm moving home, and it would have been harder to do it at home just 'cause my dad works and stuff, and I obviously don't want to interrupt him. Anyways, though, today, Matt's internet was so bad, we couldn't do a face-to-face lesson. It was just audio, which is annoying. I'm glad we still had the audio, but, you know, after this lesson, I was like, I'm ready for face-to-face again. It's just hard to get the sound concepts and stuff. I'm continuing Zoom lessons for my own students. That's just what I'm doing personally for the time being. Once June rolls around, I might change that. That's not really anything to do with this, though. Let's get into what you're freaking here for. Today's lesson, we talked for the first part of it. I'm buying a piccolo trumpet. By the time this video comes out, you may have seen it before in other videos. I'm not sure. I bought a Selmer. We were kind of talking about that. The only piccolo trumpet mouthpiece that I own has a cornet shank. The shank is the end, not the mouth of it, if you don't know. So that the end piece that goes into the receiver, there are two different sizes, and I just have the cornet shank for a piccolo mouthpiece. And this piccolo takes a trumpet shank, so I need to buy a piccolo mouthpiece. We talked about that briefly. He recommended I buy a Bach 7D, so I think I'm going to do that. That's pretty close to, I was playing a Schilke 11AX. I know everyone frickin' loves talking about equipment. It just baffles me. I've never really been an equipment guy, but I've met very few trumpet players who don't. That's always the question I get asked most. So I've been playing on 11AX for piccolo, just so you don't have to ask. I play a Lasky 75C. Normally on B flat trumpet. We talked about switching that out as well. Different video. equipment, man, whatevs. Some of this is just about going to his house and the precautions. So, my jury is scheduled for June 4th. My jury, it's not a jury, like I can bomb it, nothing's gonna happen. But it's not graded or anything, it's just a lesson thing, but it's a jury slash recital thing. I'll just leave it at that. It's gonna be June 4th. And originally it was going to be the first lesson we have together, but now since all this has changed, we'll get it. What is it? 2 in-person lessons and then the jury. So, been preparing for that. I need to start moving a little bit more, getting that in my mindset. That I'll be performing these pieces. Anyways, still working on those octave jumps. So today in our lesson, literally all we did was work on the Pills Sonata. That's what I did. Just the first movement. I sent a recording to him and we just analyzed everything. We got really, really into the nitty gritty. We literally talked about that for probably hour 15 minutes. Just that. And that's all we did in today's lesson. It was very, very beneficial though. But I didn't get to anything else. So I'll just run down. Everything else is staying literally exactly the same. Everything. Even Sachse, excuse me. So it's just repeating from last week. So Charlie A6, Bitsch 3, Brandt 6, Sachse 10, and I'm still working on Petrouchka, Mahler 5, and Leonore 2 and 3. Just continuing on with that. Getting back to it, a lot of the stuff we talked about was phrasing. The Pills Sonata isn't necessarily a really hard trumpet piece. It's he said he wants to work on my musicality, and I think, as a trumpet player, I feel relatively good. Every single part of my trumpet playing can definitely be better, but I think musicality, I do a pretty good job. It's not perfect, and none of my playing is. But that's one of the things I'm a little bit stronger at. I'm very expressive. The issue with my playing is I tend to go over the top. If you think about my playing like a glass, I wish I had a glass. I have a candle. Okay, I wasn't expecting to do this. Okay, it's like you pour the wax in the candle, and you want it full, but sometimes I fill it where the wax is going over the side. Water would be a better example, but I overdo it sometimes, and my air, I give it too much air, and I'm overblowing stuff, is I guess what I'm saying, and I give, what was the word he used? Flares. Sometimes I flare, especially in octave leaps. We talked about that a few weeks ago, but the octave leaps are a little bit tricky for me, for everyone, let's be real, but I tend to go da, like there's a and then I back off from it. And there's a lot of octave slurs in the Pills Sonata, the first movement. Yeah, so we just talked about phrasing, using different formulas, so like in a 1 to 10 scale system, of which notes are most important. So 10 is the peak of the phrase, and then 9 is leading up to it, 8, blah, blah, blah. So using that number, I can't remember the number, the numbering system that's attached to. But anyways, we also talked a little bit about listening to other musicians other than trumpets. I have the whole Album of the Week series, so I'm listening to a lot of music. But it's basically all trumpet players, jazz, which is mostly trumpet players, like with trumpet on the album, and then orchestral stuff. I haven't done a whole lot. It's mostly been trumpet solo works, which is good, and it's important to be listening to that stuff, but it's also important to listen to other musicians. And Matt said the most important non-trumpet players to listen to for what I want to do is, and what he's gotten the most out of, are violin, cello, and singers. So he's given me some recommendations, and if you've watched any of my Album of the Weeks, you know how bad I am at pronouncing names, so I apologize. For the strings, he recommended Janos Starker, or Janos, Bach cello suites. He told me to check those out. And Christian Tetzlaff. Yeah. We also briefly touched on Mel Broyles. He was during the Bud Herseth era, principal of the lyric opera, I believe. I had never heard of any of these players. Mel Broyles I have heard of, but I didn't know anything about him. As far as singers go, he told me to check out Jussi Bjorling. I'll write all these below. And Bryn Terfel for some Strauss and Wagner stuff. He also told me to check out the second movement of Beethoven's Fifth Piano Concerto. And next week we're going to be focusing on the second movement for sure of the Pills Sonata, maybe the third if we get there, as well as Petrouchka, the crazy hard section at the end of the third tableau, where the first trumpet and the second trumpet are. I can just sing it. Da 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 da. Excuse me. That section, if you know where I'm talking about, is going to be the focus, as well as the waltz section, or the vols. That's everything. It was kind of a. I mean, we talked about a lot of stuff, but it was just a lot about one thing. You know, we just focused on that. So yeah, that's everything. Again, I'm gonna miss this place a bunch. This is the last trumpet update, and probably the last video that's coming out. Now that I'm thinking about it, all my other videos are probably past if I keep up with weekly, so it'll be maybe enjoyable editing this and remembering this place. It's only gonna be like 2 months from now, I suppose. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. If you liked it, thumbs up, subscribe, bell notification if you want to check more of my videos out. That's everything. See you next week.